Welcome to Quarantine Break, everybody. I'm Kiana Martin, founder of Eat Soccer, and I'm so pleased to have with us a special guest who's going to talk to us about what makes us move. International performer, choreographer, and teaching artist, Jessie Sector. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So what was your first introduction to dance?
Yeah, so I actually started dancing when I was 2. My mom would argue that it was sooner than that, probably. But I've been dancing pretty much my entire life. I did studio dance all the way up through high school, competitive dance, majored in dance in college, and then just never saw a reason to stop. So here we are.
At what point did you realize that this was going to be a part of your life's work?
You know, I was looking at that question, and I'm not sure I ever did realize that. I just never really thought about doing anything else. I think when I was a kid, I was very lucky that I had a very artsy and supportive family. So when I was taking dance classes and going to shows and stuff like that, there was never a question in my mind of that this wasn't something I could do. You know, my teachers were in school for dance or performing dancers. So it was always a career path that was an option for me. So I fell in love with it when I was a kid, never thought about doing anything else.
So, as you said, your parents were pretty supportive of your passion for dance. For those students who may come across the obstacle of their parents are not necessarily on board with a career path that includes like this artistic endeavor, what pieces of advice do you have for them?
Yeah, I mean, I was very lucky. I know a lot of my coworkers and colleagues in the dance world did not have as much of a supportive back as I did, but even with my family, they were very adamant that if this is something I was going to do, I was going to put everything I possibly had into it, and I was going to be smart about it. So I wasn't just going to run away from home at 18 and try and get a job on a TV show. You know, I was going to go to school for dance, and I was going to take it seriously, and I was going to have other options. I majored in education as well. I'm a teacher as well, so that's, you know, always been part of my plan personally. But I know it is a struggle, but in any art, I mean, not just dance, music, art, theater, anything is a struggle for some people without any support behind them. But what I would encourage people to do is know that the arts community outside of wherever you are, if you're in like a little tiny town or even if you're in New York City, the arts community itself is so supportive. Every single dancer I ever talked to about asking them questions about, can I do this as a job? Is this a possibility? They always offered me good advice, and they always kind of met me where I was and helped me get to the next step. So even if you don't have that family support or that community support where you are right now, the arts community as a whole is a really, really awesome group of people, and they are there to help you out no matter what.
What does dance mean to you?
Oof. Dance has been my life since I was a kid. It's how I communicate best with people, I think, movement-wise, body language-wise. It's how I read people. I mean, I am very lucky that I have a big group of friends that are also dancers who understand that, you know, I want to come up and put my arm around them and stay really close to them because I'm a very physical person because of that. But, you know, dance is something that is present in almost every culture around the world. Dance and music are kind of like the two things that exist everywhere and in every time period. It's just something that's always been there. And I think to me, that is why it's so important, because it's always existed. It's always been a form of communication. It's always been a form of expression. And it's done that for me through a lot of my life. So if I can pass that on to younger kids that I'm teaching or people that I'm performing for or anything like that, it's, you know, just passing on that message a little further.
I know that you're on a personal mission to discover what makes us move. Why is that something that you want to continue exploring and discovering and sharing with others?
Yeah, so I had a really awesome opportunity probably a year, maybe 2 years ago, to teach a dance class to senior citizens. And I did not know what I was going to do, because every dance class I had taught up until that point was from like age 3 to maybe like 25, you know, people who can jump up, get off the floor, get down, do whatever they want. And I go into this class and we have to do an entire seated warm up, and we have to kind of build, they wanted to build choreography and make dances with senior citizens. And it was the most fun I had ever had teaching a class, because these people were just excited to be there. They were so ready to connect with other people and move and do whatever it was they could. And since then, my like age range of students has gone from 2 months old to my oldest student was about 89, I think, 89 or 90. And so it's really cool to see. And I teach almost the exact same structure of class to every single age group. And so it's really cool to be able to go through and get people moving, because everybody, at least everybody that I've run into, wants to. Everybody moves in different ways, and everybody wants to explore how they can do that to different music, or just to, you know, feel better at the end of the day. Moving helps with that. So it's been a really fun experience working with so many different populations, and it's been really exciting to see what comes out of that. So, you know, I just want to explore that as much as I can, because it's inspiring and exciting to me, as well as a job, you know.
Currently, you're a performer and teaching artist at the Pilobolus Dance Theater, and it's an acclaimed dance theater. Can you give our viewers a quick background on the Pilobolus Dance Theater and share your journey to becoming a performer for the dance?
Yeah. So Pilobolus is a really cool company. They formed in the 70s at Dartmouth College. It was started by 4 men who had never danced before in their life. They were all athletes. I think one of them was a fencer, 2 of them were football players, somebody played basketball, and one of them was a pole vaulter, which caught my interest because I was also a pole vaulter in college. So that's how I found them. But these 4 guys had to take a dance elective to graduate. And so they went in and took this class. And the dance teacher, Allison Chase, who was the first female in the company and also has her own company now in New York City, she basically decided, I'm not going to try and teach these guys ballet. I'm not going to try and teach them choreographed modern technique, anything like that, because it won't work. They've never taken dance before. They're athletes. It won't work. So I'm going to teach them how to think creatively, and I'm going to teach them how to work together to make something. And the story I love hearing from the founders, 2 of whom are still alive, is that they were afraid to go on stage by themselves. So they just decided to stay as close to each other as possible and make shapes that required all 4 of them. So nobody could judge them individually. They had to judge them as a group. And then they just kind of fell in love with doing it and named themselves after a species of fungi, because one of the guys' fathers was a biologist, and they've just stuck around since the 70s. I found them actually by accident, flipping through a textbook and pointing to a random page because I had to do an assignment for college based on a company. Found them, read a little bit about them, went into the class, told my teacher I was going to create a piece based on the company Pilobolus, and he looked at me like I was absolutely nuts. And that's when I knew that I had found the right one.
Wow. So what was your journey to actually joining the company once you had become inspired by them?
So I went and saw them live. So I had discovered them and only seen them on the internet. And I had the opportunity to go see them in New York. So I went and saw them in New York. And I was just floored by watching the performance. It was the first dance company that I'd ever seen that was what I felt was my style of movement. What was the first thing that I saw that I could point at each dancer and say, I can do that and I want to do that. And I'm going to need to do a lot of work, but I think I can get there. And so I actually waited after the performance and talked to the dancers in the company because they came out afterwards. And, you know, just kind of in this state of shock, went up to one of the dancers who's now a really good friend of mine and said, okay, what do I do? Hi, I'm here. I want to do this. What do I do next? And so they encouraged me to go to a summer workshop with the company, which we hold every year. I went to that summer workshop. I stayed. I was only supposed to be there for a week. I ended up convincing them to let me stay for another week because I wasn't going to leave.
Yeah.
And then I went to every class they had. I went to every workshop they taught. I auditioned for the company 3 times. I just fell in love with it and just totally immersed myself and went to every performance and went to every class and made sure to talk to people and say hi to people and kind of network, but it didn't feel like networking because it felt like they were friends. So, seeing my friends after the show, saying hi, hanging out with them, and then going on to whatever was next. And eventually, my last audition for the company, I got cut. And then I got a call maybe a month later saying, hey, we need a teacher, and we know you're a teacher, and we know you, and we know you know the material. So can you help us teach this workshop? So I actually started as a teaching artist with the company before I was a performer. I taught with the company for about 4 or 5 years, and then I got pulled into a touring performance. My first job was going to Hawaii, so nobody's going to complain about that performing. But basically, I worked for them long enough that I felt comfortable emailing the artistic directors and saying, hey guys, I really like what I'm doing. I really love teaching for you guys. I would really love to perform as well. And I got an email back that was just like, great, awesome. You want to go to Hawaii? So I feel very lucky in that I kind of came into this company in a little bit of a different fashion than I think a lot of dancers do. But I also am able to kind of use all of my interests and all of my skills with this company, which is really exciting and kind of unique as well.
So what is a typical week like for you in a lead up to a performance with Pilobolus? And then what are your days like as a teaching artist for the company?
So when we're performing, everything we do, at least at this point, is contract based. So we don't do 9 to 5 daily rehearsals all the way through the year. It's just not something that's kind of feasible for the company at this point. But when we have a job, we'll get called in for rehearsals, usually a couple weeks beforehand. If it's a show we've already done, if it's a new show, more rehearsals, of course. You come in and we have rehearsals from about 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. every day with a little bit of a lunch break in the middle. And we spend our time, we have an hour warm up at the beginning of the day. Sometimes we do that all individually on our own. Sometimes one of us will lead a warm up, and it ranges from, your typical ballet warm up, which is not really our style, but fun to do regardless, to rolling on the floor for an hour, to jumping jacks and a hit workout, can kind of range from whatever. Then we usually go into creation mode for the first half of the day. So we'll just make as much stuff as we can, try to just make a ton of material without judging it too much, create. And then we take lunch, and then we'll go back the second half of the day, refine anything we need to refine, and build whatever we're making. So if it's a one-off gig with a new set of movements, that's when we'll kind of put everything together. And if it's a show we've already done, that's when we go back and edit pieces that maybe need a little more attention. We do that for basically the full week, and then at the end of the week, we'd fly out and go wherever we're going. We usually have a day off after travel to kind of recover, because as anybody that's a mover knows, sitting on an airplane for a long period of time is not great to move around the next day. And then for show days, we have rehearsals the first half of the day and then shows at night. So we'll do our dailies, anything that is like a big lift or a big piece of choreography that's really challenging. We'll do that every day. So we make sure that it's in our bodies and ready to go for the show. And then we'll do notes. If we had a show the previous night, we'll do our notes, anything like that, go over any little pieces that were maybe a little funky the night before. And then sometimes we'll do a run through, sometimes we won't do a run through, and we have the performance that night. When I'm teaching for the company, it's a little funky because the company is technically based in Connecticut, but I am the New York teaching artist. So I will be sent all over the city. Sometimes I'm in Brooklyn. Sometimes I just had a residency in Rockaway and Queens. Sometimes Manhattan, sometimes the Bronx, wherever they send me. I pop over to that school. I go in. I usually teach sometimes if it's a public school, it's usually like a 45-minute class, because that's just what their range of time is. If it's a master class or anything like that, it can range from anywhere from an hour to a full day, depending on where I'm teaching.
Mhm.
But I will wake up, I will warm up on my own at home, eat a good breakfast, you know, get a little workout in, and then go to wherever I'm going, teach the class. And then I usually hang out a little bit afterwards and talk to the teachers and the kids and see if they have any questions. And if the teachers have any questions about what I'm teaching or what resources I have, I like to share them and get some ideas from them as well. And that's pretty much it. It's a really fun thing to be able to kind of bop all over the place and meet new kids and teachers and connect that way.
Do you continue to take classes on your own? And if not, do you do other types of workouts to maintain your abilities for your performances?
Yeah, so I try to take class as much as possible. It is challenging sometimes because, you know, when you're teaching and working out for a job all day, kind of the last thing you want to do is go take another class.
Yeah.
But I do try to do it as much as possible. I find that going and taking classes from other artists in all sorts of different styles helps fuel my creativity for my own work. So when I'm feeling like I can't think of anything or I'm like in a creative rut, that's when I'll really focus and go take some more class and get out there and try different things, because it just refuels my brain in that way, which is really nice. Workout wise, we do in Pilobolus, we do a ton of partnering and a ton of lifting and counterbalance and things like that. My teaching partner is often one of two men who are both over 6 foot and both like 190 pounds, and I have to lift them off the ground. So I do a lot of like kind of like interval training, some strength training, I stretch as much as possible. You know, you got to keep your flexibility up with everything else, but I try to keep everything a big mix of what I do. I also do have a side job at a rock climbing gym. I'm a rock climbing instructor as well, so that's a big part of my
Wow.
cross training.
Tell us some of the performances that are most memorable to you that you've done, and why do they stand out the most in your mind?
Yeah. I think my favorite performance I've done is one of the performances I did with Pilobolus, actually, where we did a collaborative event at the New York Academy of Art. So we actually did, it was one of the big foundations of Pilobolus as a company is collaboration. There's no choreographer in Pilobolus. There's an artistic director. There's actually 2 artistic directors. But everything that we make is made as a group. We don't have one person telling us what to do, which is also kind of a unique element of this company that I really enjoy.
Mhm.
But we try to do performances and events that incorporate that. So we had students from the New York Academy of Art sketching us as we were dancing. So we set up a big stage in the middle of the room. We were improvising on stage. The artists were drawing us as we were improvising, and we had a composer come in and improvise music with us as well. So we were all kind of building it together, and it was really interesting and really kind of fun for me to do because it was collaboration in real time. So we had 3 rounds set up. We did the first round we improvised kind of something that we had thought about and talked out a little bit and planned. It never really goes according to plan, but something like that. Yeah. And then we stopped and we talked to the artist. What do you need from us? You need us to go slower. Cool, we can go slower. So then we talk to the musician. We need you to play something slow so that we can mentally get into that space where we can go slow. We do the second round and then we come back. Okay, what do we need to do now? So it was a really cool event as a performer because you did get to kind of stop in the middle, which is totally unusual. If you're in any sort of performance environment, you very rarely get to stop and talk to the other people involved and see what's going on. So that was really, really cool. And seeing the real-time collaboration of the musician building a piece of music based on what we were doing and then the artist drawing what we were doing at the same time, it created this really cool connection between all of us. And we've done a couple projects with the New York Academy of Art since then. It's always one of my favorite things we do every year because it's inspiring because it's combining a lot of different art forms as well, which is neat.
In addition to your work with Pilobolus, you also create work for festivals, other dance companies, and as well as TV. How do you find and secure these opportunities for yourself?
Yeah, so I do a lot of my own work as well. I do a lot of performances, teaching. I work at a couple different studios teaching kids. I teach adults as well in the city. And then I create my own work. Sometimes I'll find that through online resources. There's Dance NYC is like a huge resource for dancers and artists in the dance community in New York. And there's always audition postings, there's always festival postings, there's always performance opportunities there, which is really fun. I, weirdly enough, have found a lot of opportunities on Instagram. It's not something I ever thought I would do. I'm not a person that has a crazy professional Instagram. I post dance, I post my life on my Instagram. You know, it's not a professional account, but I choreographed 2 episodes for a Fox sitcom called Almost Family, and they found me on Instagram, and the producer knew somebody that followed me that gave them my phone number, and that's how I found that opportunity. So it's interesting because some opportunities I have really dug into and found, and some have found me, and they've all been really kind of challenging and exciting. And I think the biggest piece of advice in that I can give to people is just take an opportunity. If it looks like something that's kind of in your wheelhouse and maybe a little new and different, try it, see what happens. You know, you don't have to go in and be an expert at it. And I was certainly not an expert when I went into choreographing for TV. I showed up on the first day and told them, I've never choreographed for TV before, but I'm really excited to learn how to do it. So what do we do?
So how was that experience different than, you know, some of the other works that you've done when it comes to choreography?
Yeah, the TV was cool because I actually, we were choreographing for a scene that was to be filmed in a dance studio. So I actually initially got hired as a consultant to look at the scene and make sure it was genuine and authentic in that way, that it looked like an actual dance class. But because then I came in and the actress that I was working with wanted some extra direction, I ended up doing some choreography and working on it that way. And so it was cool because I had to choreograph people. I had to help choreograph camera because if it was in a dance studio, so there are mirrors. So we had to figure out how to not see the camera in the mirror. And then I had to figure out how to choreograph background people so that they wouldn't take away from our actress who was kind of the focus of the scene, but also make them look authentic, like they're in a class at the same time. So it was a cool experience because it was less about creating a whole picture, but creating pieces of a picture all at once. So you create this little image over here and this little image here and this little image here, as opposed to one big long 10-minute piece, which is what I'm used to doing more so.
Where do you find your inspiration for the choreography that you create?
Everywhere. Sometimes it's music. I'm a big music nerd. I listen to just about everything. My favorite thing in the world is my Spotify Discover playlist. It's throwing me new music all the time. Sometimes it's music. Sometimes it's other forms of art, TV, movies. Sometimes it's my family sending me an article on something and being like, hey, this is interesting. You should look into it. I try not to limit myself by starting anyway. So like if somebody sends me a song and I'm really inspired by that song, cool, I'll start working on the piece that way. But if I'm sitting in bed at one night and come up with like this really cool hand thing, and that's what sticks with me, then I'm going to start building that, and then all the other stuff will come later. So I try to draw inspiration from everywhere, and a lot of it also, you know, comes from my community of friends and colleagues and dancers who are wildly talented and always down to try out new ideas with me. So I'm very lucky in that way.
For students that are interested in pursuing a career as a professional dancer, what resources do you suggest that they take a look at?
Yeah, so Dance NYC is a really awesome one if you are in New York City. I know I use that quite frequently. I think my biggest advice to anybody looking at dance is to explore, like watch different companies, go to the festivals that are big, like Jacob's Pillow or the American Dance Festival, if you can. If not, they also usually offer a lot of online content too, so you can go on and find company names and then go to YouTube and look at all the companies and figure out which type of stuff you like. And then kind of like I said before, you know, talk to people, reach out to people. I have never met a dancer that doesn't want to talk about their job and what they do and the companies they love and the work they've done, because it's something we love and we love sharing it with people. So if you find a company you really like, send them an email. They're always, we at Pilobolus love getting emails from people. We love getting questions from people about what we do. And it's, you know, I could talk about my job all day. So if just reach out to people. The dance community is really special in a lot of ways. I think people in the dance community are really open to welcoming new people in. And yes, it's competitive, but it's also supportive in a really beautiful way of everybody has their own strengths and their own talents. And we want you in our group. If you can share that with us too.
Tell our viewers where they can learn more about you, about the classes you teach, and about upcoming performances with Pilobolus.
Yeah, so the best way to find me is probably my Instagram, actually. I know I just said it wasn't a professional account, but it is where I post everything. So my Instagram is Jessie Sector, SECTOR 7. I post all of my performances, all my classes, anything like that gets posted there. I do have a website as well, sectordance.com. It's not updated as often as my Instagram, but it is up to date. And then Pilobolus, they have their own Instagram as well that they post everything on, and a website. Pilobolus is PILOBOLUS. Their Instagram is just Pilobolus. The website is pilobolus.org. I actually highly recommend going to our website right now because we have 2 full pieces up there, which we rarely do. So we decided, since we had to cancel so many performances, to release 2 full pieces to all of our fans and friends and anybody interested. So go on and check those pieces out. They're really cool. I know I've already watched them and I've seen them a million times. So I highly recommend that too.
Awesome. Lastly, what is the best piece of career advice that you would give your younger self?
Yeah, I was thinking about this a lot today too. My biggest advice to myself would be just be confident in what you know you can do, because when I was just kind of getting started with Pilobolus, I remember I went up to the woman who is now my boss and basically just told her that I wasn't leaving this summer intensive because I really love what this is and I want to learn more, and I'm just not going to leave. And I don't know what that means for you. We'll figure it out, but this is what we're going to do. And every step I've taken in my career so far has been because I've just decided that this is what I want to do and I'm going to make it happen. So I'm going to be confident in my ability to do that. And I think when I was a little bit younger, I mean, even now I have to remind myself to do this over and over and over again. But if you feel like you're ready and you feel like you want it and you have a connection, go for it. You know, what's the worst thing that can happen? They're going to tell you no, and then you go on and find something else to do. But, you know, be confident in your ability and be confident in what you know you can do and what you want to do, because even at the highest level in dance, people would rather have somebody who wants to be there and is excited to be there and is interested in the work you're doing than the most talented person in the room. So go for it.
Thank you so much for sharing your amazing story with us, Jessie. And we'll see everybody next week on Monday at Quarantine Break. Y'all have a great weekend.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks.